out of this one as Kazi tries to turn it back around, cleanses away, and now Douglas is here to join the party. He gets one, he gets two. Tidal Wave used on Noah, but he flashes away. BTO lands a bunch of the shots, and it's enough for double for BTO. Kazi was spotted as he walks into the bush, and Humanoid slides forward, still has the Emperor's Divide in the flash, but he doesn't need either to work his way through the Lucian. Douglas now caught out. Humanoid is so damn big. 5-0-0 now on the Azir.
Yes, indeed. Humanoid was smurfing, and he's here to smurf a little more. Hello.
Hello.
You are the Kia player of the game, and I think this was like one of the easiest to predict probably of the week so far. Yeah, talk to me about your game.
Yeah, I mean, I think this game was kind of won in draft. I think, yeah, Zerat is not really that great if you have two tanks, and Azir is a bit OP on this patch, so I think, yeah, it was really hard to lose.
For you, is Azir like just OP on every patch though?
Not really. I think sometimes it is, but I think this patch especially it's like stronger than it was even last year, I think. So, yeah.
I was trying to give you a compliment, but it's okay. Dagda, very 2-0 for Fnatic already. This one a bit back and forth at times, but overall sovereign performance.
Yeah, I think, and a huge amount of it was yourself and Razork, which I think have been working super, super well together. I think the fact that you're constantly getting these plays off to like, hey, we're going to shift our pressure from mid lane into, you picked off Bo yesterday for the first kill in game one. We got to see it here coming into this game as well, where it's just the case of we are constantly looking for the invades. We're catching out Douglas at times. I think it's been absolutely sick to see just how well you two have, not to say it was bad to begin with, but it feels like you've taken another step up when it comes to that mid jungle 2v2.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have both improved a lot, especially from in our first year. I think it was pretty bad, as you said, and yeah, I think right now we are playing really well, and our synergy together is really good. So I'm happy with how we're playing right now.
Is there anything specific the two of you have done to like get the mid jungle synergy going, or do you think it just naturally came and got better over time?
I think it just came naturally, and it also, I think, comes from the rest of the team also playing better, because we are just overall so much better as a team than we were last year or the year before. So it's way easier to play as mid jungle when we are winning every lane. So yeah.
Okay, we were talking to Mickey yesterday. I think it's fair to say that yourself, G2, some of the strongest teams in Europe very, very clearly. And he was talking a lot about how they're focusing on mid game, and when they got to international, specifically Worlds, and they're looking at it now, they feel like they lost the game a lot in the mid game, and this was something that was described as a European problem, so to say. Do you feel similarly?
I think it's always like this against the Asian teams, to be honest. They just, yeah, it always feels like even though you are even in gold against them, it always feels like you're losing for some reason on the map. So I think for sure Europe has some problems in the mid game that we need to fix until we can start beating them.
But if we all know it, how do we fix it?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you can ask the Asian players. Maybe they will tell us.
We'll ask them to come help your mid game. They'll love to do that, right, Broxah? But I mean, it is a good example of something, something's going wrong, and you know that you're falling behind specifically versus LCK and LPL teams. But sometimes is it much harder? Because as a viewer, I'm like, well, just look at your mid game. But it's really not that easy.
Well, from my own experience, almost every time I've gone to an international tournament with any team I've played for, it feels like the first 2 weeks you're just being destroyed by LCK and LPL, and then you slowly catch up. And it feels like, for whatever reason, we always got to get to the point of playing them, because it's always easy, like you said, to look in from the outside and see we should do this and that. But at the end of the day, you gotta feel the pressure of playing them. But I also think for teams like Fnatic and G2 that have made very minimal changes, the grow is gonna come pretty quickly over time, because I think it's one of the mistakes we've always made, that every year a team doesn't perform as well as we expect them to. We completely destroy the entire roster, and then you start from zero again. But this time, I'm sure, like, you guys must have had some learning lessons from Worlds that you're using in this year, right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, you always come back from the tournament, I feel a lot more improved. Like, in just 1 month, I feel there's more improvement than in like half a year of playing LEC usually. Because, yeah, you can just play against the best teams, best players, so it always helps. And, yeah, especially to us, I think we improved a lot from that tournament.
Yeah. Also, last year was kind of insane in Fnatic. I feel like you had a roster change, felt like every couple of weeks. Is it different now that you guys talk about like, okay, we can really look at this whole year, hopefully, this whole year, and at what you can do to improve going into, hopefully an MSI or a Worlds?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I think this year, I'm pretty sure we're gonna go the entire year without any roster changes because we are actually pretty good. So. Yeah, I mean, we are going to look forward to making to MSI, hopefully, and then performing there.
Okay, let's see, indeed. We want to play a little game with you, Humanoid. It's called Spot the Imposter. It's about one of the items, the new items, and you'll see the build path, and something is wrong with it. And so you have to identify the item and say which component is not correct, if it works. Yeah, here we go. There it is.
I mean, it's the Dirk, I think. Or I built this item like once in my life.
Only once? Yeah?
I think it's the Dirk as well. It must be something else, but the question is what it's supposed to be, right?
I think it's supposed to be Caulfield's wall. I think it's the other.
No, incorrect.
I have no idea what this is supposed to be.
We don't know. Do you guys know?
I'm a big question mark right now.
Oh, cool. We can reveal probably. Because heck if I know.
Oh, of course.
Oh yeah,
that makes sense.
This one.
This one. Have you built it a lot?
Yeah, you built this on LeBlanc. It's pretty OP.
There we go. Does that happen often? Like, is there just so much information that you just kind of remember by the picture, this is what it does, this is what I need?
I think honestly, since the patch hit, I've been only playing basically AP items, so I don't really know much of the other ones.
Makes sense, makes sense. Next up, we will see Rogue again. They will go up against Team Heretics. Dagda, give us your thoughts, because Heretics had a really bad start, and Rogue did as well, actually.
Yeah, I think for Heretics, it's going to be a lot of trying to see if they can, redeem themselves from what was a catastrophic early game yesterday. The fact that they fell so far behind in the early stages kind of never really gave them the shot to come back into it. But I think when you're looking at the opposite side, I don't think Rogue were particularly proactive yesterday. And I think this is something that I want to see, especially like Markoon try and step up and bring to the table, because we did see glimpses of it on SK last year. So if you can bring that proactivity, maybe you can beat Heretics to the punch. Heretics to the punch like we did see yesterday.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a question mark of if you can get that from Rogue.
I also think for Heretics, they're in a pretty interesting position where, sure, it can be demoralizing to lose in the way they did, but at the same time, literally everything went wrong at any point starting with draft. So they just gotta hit the reset button, go again, act like it's the first game of the split, and I think they're gonna be okay.
What do you think, Humanoid?
I think both teams are better than what they showed yesterday, for sure. And I think Heretics are gonna redeem themselves from yesterday's game, but I still think Rogue is the better team.
But Heretics is going to win.
No.
Oh, okay.
They're just going to redeem themselves by losing a bit more slowly than yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think they're going to both play better than yesterday.
Okay, good. I love that. So we're going to check in with Heretics assistant coach as well, Kirei. He's standing by with Laure.
And welcome back to yet another interview location here in the new studio with Kirei for, I think, what is your very first coaching staff interview. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing very great. Thanks for asking.
So first things first, how is it for you being in this new position, and how are you helping the team? What have you been doing so far?
I mean, new position is kind of nice. We're full veterans, so I've got a lot to learn as well from them. And it's very nice because it's my first time back in LEC as a coach. So it's actually a very nice experience so far.
But it's great to have you back, and I'm happy that you mentioned the fact that you have veterans mostly, because I'm always wondering how much can you help players when they achieved so much, when they've been playing for so many years? Can you give me some specifics on this, please?
I think you can definitely help guiding them the right direction. It's just like reminding them what's correct and just pushing them in a way. And that's most of veterans, especially just like guide them, you push them, and that's basically like my job, especially.
Of course, I think when it comes to this team, people are wondering what was the reasoning behind reuniting this top, mid, and jungle that got so much success within G2, of course. But do you have any specifics to share in that area? Why did you think it was the right direction to go?
I'm not the head coach, so I can't go into specifics, but obviously they played a long time together with each other, there's some synergy, and they did split apart for a bit, so it's time to like rebuild a bit, but I'm sure with time we'll be like really good.
With time, but soon, especially given the format, Kirei, I have to ask, yesterday was not pretty. How did
That's
you guys reflect on that? And what can you tell me to make sure that it's not going to happen today and that Heretics is going to be back on tracks?
I mean, it was mostly the early game. After early game, you don't really get to the mid game, and I got to give to the enemy. They played well and they snowballed properly. So today, for sure, and tomorrow, we got to work on our early game and make sure that we can show what we can do.
Wishing you the best of luck, of course, in that.
Thank
Amazing having you back in this position.
Yeah,
Kirei.
thank you very much.
So much for the interview.
Yeah.
Sjokz, back to you.
Going to finish that segment tomorrow.
Of course. Good work today. Good work. Good work.
The final game of the day. I'm just saying maybe we add in more. Who knows? Could be fun.
I want to go to bed at a decent time tonight.
I just don't go to bed.
Oh,
You got a
okay.
flight in the morning. Just stay up.
Yeah,
You're
just
young. You're sprightly.
I'm getting there though. I'm getting on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You,
I still think I'm the youngest
32, man.
on the
Like,
team.
I'm
Yeah, I
giga-old
know.
now, so.
I know. Sorry, Gramps.
Sorry. Speaking of Gramps, Team Heretics are about to take the stage and play up against Rogue. One of the older teams on the Rift. I will say yesterday was disappointing from them, but I feel it very much came down to a meta read problem rather than a hands problem, and they didn't really have the opportunity to show whether their hands were good or not on the Rift because of the draft.
Yep, and also I just feel like on the flip side, Mad Lions played an exceptional game, and once they had a hold of the lead, they didn't really give Heretics an opportunity to play the game. So, again, it's one of those things. A lot of people have Heretics rated quite highly coming into the year. It's because we know so much about these players. They've played together so many times. People call them G2.5.
Yeah.
And it's for a good reason. So this will definitely be a much, well, you would have expected yesterday would have been a pretty good bar to kind of set yourself coming into the year. But Rogue will also probably be a kind of similar opponent, in my opinion. And yeah, I think there wasn't really too much takeaway. And like you mentioned, it's mostly going to kind of come down to what we see from them in terms of the draft.
Yeah, in-game, in the end, it's one game.
Yeah.
Right? Judging a team from one game is being unfair both to the team and also to the meta or whatever draft you're having. We also obviously seeing Rogue on the Rift today. Yesterday was okay, you know, it wasn't awful, wasn't diabolical, but I think they would still want to show us a little bit more. It felt a little bit like yesterday they struggled to do stuff sometimes, and that has been a failing of Rogue in the past.
Yeah, definitely. I've always kind of been critical of Rogue in the sense of their philosophy tends to be a relatively slow game, and it feels exciting when we do get fast Rogue, but often it's, you know, Larssen on the control mages, waiting to scale up to almost 3 items, and kind of a similar deal from the bottom side on many occasions. So, as I will always say when it comes to my own opinion about Rogue, I hope they do speed up the games, but it is kind of a tried and tested strategy for them. They are the by the textbook League of Legends team of the league. So I anticipate that we're going to see a lot more of that slow play and see what they can do when it comes to those mid-game team fights against a set of players who are no stranger to those metas inside of Team Heretics.
Well, just waiting for the players to take to the stage, and as they do, I do want to celebrate for a moment one of our most storied players in the LEC. Probably one of the greats. I think he would be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's definitely one of the greats, yeah. Well, it's a player that would be in the Hall of Fame if we had a Hall of Fame. And that player is Jankos. Today is his 10th anniversary of playing in the LEC. Obviously, it used to be the EU LCS. He played his first game on the 14th of January, 2014. Tomorrow, he will play his 600th LEC game. What a history he's developed for himself. Definitely the greatest European jungler in terms of longevity, in terms of awards. And he continues to show just why he has earned so many accolades over his years.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming off the back of a fantastic year in terms of individual performance, and hoping to carry that on through to 2024 and 600 games tomorrow. That's a lot of League of Legends.
It's a lot of League of Legends.
It's like almost 2 years if he played a game,
a day.
Yeah.
That's that's actually absurd when you think about it. Well, he'll take to the stage once again. Only the second time he's had to do this walk down the tunnel. The crowd surrounding him, alongside him, obviously, Wunder, Perkz, Flakked, and Kaiser on the other side of the Rift. We have Rogue, Szygenda lining up in the top lane, and then Markoon, who has joined them this year, Larssen, Comp, and Zoelys, a player who has been very explosive in the ERLs, and I expect to see a lot from. Known for his ability to find something from nothing as a support, which is always something you want on a team that perhaps is a little bit more, a little bit on the slower side. You want someone that can bring the game to life. in a moment.
And you know what? I really feel like Markoon, you know, coming into this split would be the kind of player in my mind that'll do that. I feel like he's very, very vocal, and he grew on his time in SK, and it was quite clear that he was a very strong leader, seemingly. And I hope, as I always do with Rogue, that it does mean slightly faster game pace. Yeah. I will complain about it a lot, but that is just kind of me with Rogue.
I think we're all, like, you and I are in the same camp, where I find League of Legends more exciting when stuff is happening. Yeah. However, playing slowly is not inherently wrong. Yeah. And that is an important caveat for us to put out. Yes. Rogue, when they play slowly, they can play really well. They can suffocate the enemy team. The problem is, sometimes it feels like they don't have the extra arrow in their quiver. When they fall behind, they can't find the tempo. They can't find their own plays in those moments. Instead, they are marching to the beat of their opponent's drums. Rogue on the blue side, though, 0-1. Heretics 0-1 as well, after being beaten by MDK. Melio and Rumble, the first two bans, alongside Caitlyn from Heretics.
Still have the Kalista, the Felios, the Caitlyn's off the board already. Quite a few AD carry options. We'll see how many of those are stripped away. The LeBlanc is taken out of the hands of Larssen, so we won't be seeing that one for the final game of the day. What will Rogue ban away? What are they looking towards? That trio ADCs still up and available. Do they want to trim away one, look for a trade? Are there eyes elsewhere? Jax still available, Xin Zhao as well. Very, very high priority amongst our team so far this weekend.
We'll see where they decide to go. I have just noticed a little bit of an interesting fact. Yesterday, obviously, red side very favored. 4 wins out of 5 games that we had yesterday. Today, it's 50-50 split so far. BDS and SK1 on red, G2 and Fnatic have won on the blue. So this game's the decider. Will it be another red win, or will we see blue take the lead for day 2? Renato and LeBlanc banned away. There's the Rumble and the Gragas. Azir, the first lock for Larssen. We just saw how good it is in the hands of Humanoid Larssen and Azir aficionado himself. Unsurprising that Rogue decides to prioritize it early on.
Yep, solid, consistent. You know what you're getting with Azir. It's kind of on the tin. So let's see where Team Heretics look to respond. Will they immediately go towards a mid lane themselves? Will they get a bot lane pairing? Lucio Milio, up and available. Nami as well, of course. Xin Zhao, everything's on the table, really. It feels like a really, really open draft. And Xin Zhao will fall into the hands of Jankos, so looking for a little bit of early proactivity, hopefully. And again, those ADs up and available. It does make me wonder where Markoon's going to look towards now. Oh, Nocturne's up, actually. Yeah, Nocturne's not been banned away.
Feels pretty powerful. Obviously, Nocturne Orianna, the tried and true combination. I'm also looking to Heretics as one of the teams that might crack out the double support item bot lane. They have a center player. Flakked is a good center player. Kaiser obviously can play things like Tahm Kench, Cho'Gath if you want. You can also go Cho Ashe in that lane if you really want to, instead of taking the center. So there's the possibility of that. Varus locked in, though, kind of puts that on the back burner, and it's going to be Kalista here alongside Rell. Rell obviously still a flex, but expectations tend to be that that's going to go to the support role.
Yep, tend to be, but I imagine Rogue... I would kind of like to see this in the jungle a little bit more when you've got Kalista, because now, well, now Kaiser's got counterpick, if this was theoretically Robot. And you always kind of want to try and hold on as long as you can to support counterpick, in my opinion, when you do have that Kalista. We'll see. Heretics go towards that Akali for Perkz, so a lot of kill pressure once that level 6 ticks online, but before then, Larssen should have a lot of control around the mid lane, and it could open up for Markoon to have a little bit more pressure down towards that bottom side, towards that Kalista, if so be the plan.
See how the Akali deals with Azir. Is a matchup we see relatively commonly. Often the Orianna also an answer. Instead, Perkz deciding he wants something with a little bit more agency. Gwen going to be banned away for the top lane. Szygenda's not going to get his hands on that. I wonder where Rogue will go with their bans. As you said, could look to pinch the support pool a little bit here with Ashe, Varus, a relatively strong lane, even into something like Kalista Rell. If you can keep your distance from them, you can just harass them down and poke them out. Where will Rogue think the priority lies here for Team Heretics?
Should be. One of these bans should be Ashe at least. Heimerdinger. I mean,
Heimer does a very similar thing.
Very, very, very similar thing, right? So if Heim's the first ban, I would anticipate that the second ban is Ashe, and it's a little telegraph, but we never know what they're looking at. Heretics, will they trim away another carry from Szygenda? The answer will be yes, and it'll be the Jax. So no hyper carries that we tend to see out of the top lane pool. K'Sante is still up. See if Wunder wants to pick that one up on 4. And I feel like that's probably your safest bet. If you're Heretics, you want to try and hold on to this counter pick for as long as possible for Kaiser. I feel like you want to shut down that Kalista and keep her as low opportunity as possible in terms of having favorable support matchups.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. It looks like they're actually going to let Kaiser have the Ashe if he wants it. Didn't have a great performance on the Nami yesterday, so maybe they're saying, hey, Ashe is good in this lane, but we kind of don't mind if you take Ashe, Kaiser. They think perhaps they can catch him out, and you do have a lot of kill threat with a Rell and a Kalista in the bottom lane. So if that Ashe does burn her flash early on, you can just lock her down relatively consistently. There's the Cassandra you were talking about. Good prediction there. Jamada and Szygenda going back to tried and true. The Aatrox locked in for him. Rogue now will show their hand. Is the Rell jungle, or are we going to see it support with a different jungler?
Let's see. Zoelys, like we said, one of those kind of supports that can feel like, in a way, draw blood from a stone. Nothing could be going on in the game, and we'll make something happen. It's
we don't know.
So now we plainly don't know.
Maokai could be support.
Realistically, it's probably Maokai jungle,
Yeah,
but we'll play Mad Scientist for a couple seconds longer.
I'm just saying, like with Celestial Opposition or Celestial Opposition, I think it's, yeah.
I don't know. The support item is your
the
forte,
support
brother.
crown item. Oh, I've forgotten the name. It's Celestial Opposition, I was right.
Okay.
Or Bloodsong, or even Solstice Slay. Maokai is actually really strong. The Bard and answer into it. Kaiser did play a lot of Bard back in 2020, I want to say, or at least was known for it when he joined the league. Or even before he was joining the league. But it's not something we've seen from him too commonly now. We did see Bard yesterday from DOS. Had an okay performance on it, did miss some of his Cosmic Bindings, but the Tempered Fate does give you a lot of pressure if you can land a 2 or 3 man before a team fight begins.
Yeah, this Bard is definitely a pretty big pivot, but I suppose they were maybe kind of concerned about the flexibility of the jungle support, so looking for something perhaps that Kaiser just felt comfortable on in this situation in both matchups, but I feel like for Team Heretics, now it does kind of set them up to have a very strong skirmishing composition once they hit level 6, and for Rogue, a lot of stability, I feel like, throughout the solo lanes particularly, and then the bottom lane with this Kalista, the Rell, the Maokai, a lot of setup, a lot of burst damage. It's something that, on the opposite side, Jankos is going to have to keep his eyes on that volatility of the bottom lane and ensuring that they can stay safe, farm up, and then also unlock Kaiser from time to time to see if they can roam around and find plays.
Kaiser being out and on the map, I think, is vital for Team Heretics here. Both these teams still searching for their first win in the LEC 2024. And being 0-2 isn't the end of the world. Obviously, it makes you a little bit sad, as it will. But the ability to bounce back from a day one loss with a win, that motivation boost it gives you as a team is just really powerful and really impactful, especially when you're playing up against a team that, on one game's worth of form, looks like it might be battling at that 8th, 7th place for the playoff spots. And again, we have to celebrate this, man. It's Jankos. 10 years in the LEC. 10 years ago, I was still trying to be a doctor, for goodness sake.
Wow.
You were probably still in primary school?
I had very funny, yeah. I don't even think I'd started my, like, what would be to most people high school, like, exams,
the
everything.
Man has been around for an age and continues to impress. Last year on Heretics, he was the glue that held that team together. I think a lot of people looked at it as a year in which he proved it wasn't, I mean, I think he'd already proved this, but people saw it as an elevation of the fact it wasn't just the players around him that made him good on G2, right? He had so much success with G2, then went to Heretics and showed us so often that he could just carry this team. Now we see him stepping in with Kaiser, Perkz stepping in with Kaiser and Flakked to get a ward on the Razorbeaks, so at least on the Rell with the Maokai jungle. Kind of what we expected after we saw the Maokai locked in, but there was still that flexibility. Larssen will step in and get a ward on the Heretics Razors, so both junglers will be relatively on vision early on here.
Really curious to see how that mid lane pans out. Larssen on what I think many would call, I think everyone would call his signature pick. Whilst Perkz on the flashy Akali. Again, looking towards that level 6, that's when you can really try and put down some pressure on the Azir. But until then, expect to be poked out. You'll have to trade your health bar a lot if you want to try and shove out waves into the Azir. But of course, the mana is what Larssen is going to have to manage on the opposite side. Junglers, both starting on their red portions, quadrants rather.
Yeah.
We'll see whether or not Markoon looks for anything early on the bottom side with this path that he has opted for. He certainly can as a wave. Wouldn't quite say is properly being stacked, but there is a level advantage, and I think on the next wave or two could mean trouble or an invade towards that blue side where Jankos currently lies.
You actually see Jankos skipped his Krugs, skipped his Wolves, now goes Gromp. and then will walk his way over towards the blue, understanding with the prio from the bot lane that Markoon has the opportunity to step in here, puts the ward down, Perkz puts another just outside the bush. Markoon was not spotted by this, now he has been. Both the junglers level 3, Jankos.
But was that Jankos vision? Was that the ward vision only? I mean, either way.
I think he would have seen him anyway. You can see the pings coming down, you can see how safely Jankos is playing. I think it was the ward that spotted Markoon, but Markoon is playing very safely as well, understanding, well, if Jankos isn't here, where is he? Exactly. You know, what's he doing right now? Jankos goes back to the wolves, clears those out. I'd like to see if Markoon is, I believe he's doing that blue. Yeah, he'll pull it away, he takes it out. So Jankos loses out of camp in the end.
Small win for Markoon. Well, it does now mean that he's only really got waves or other camps on the top side to farm away, as well as just kind of shadowing over Larssen here, making sure that no funny business is awry with Perkz. And that does just mean that that lane will stabilize out, but now, potential scuffle over this topside skull, but Jankos has smite, should just secure it, or Markoon doesn't have smite, used it on the blue.
Yep. Jankos will be able to take that away, then can trade with Markoon. The push from Perkz in the mid lane meant that Larssen wouldn't be able to react quickly enough, so Markoon realizes he can't really take any more of that scuffle, and in the end, it will just be that top scuttle crab, but it should be both for Jankos. The bot lane of Rogue did reset. Zoelys trying to trade his health with Kaiser's. Comp's going to cleanse away that ignite. Kaiser's still ticking down to about 200 HP. You can see Jankos stepping forward into that bot side river. Might look for the Razorbeaks, might even just wrap his way all around here. No vision for the Rogue bot lane. Could put them in a little bit of a precarious spot. No cleanse, no ignite, but double flash still a possibility. Kaiser could flash forward, look for the stun. There's enough minions there to land the Cosmic Binding. Jankos in the end calls it off and just backs away because Comp and Zoelys saw the wave pushing into them and could just retreat a little bit.
A lot of respect being put down there for the possibility of Jankos folding in.
Oh, it seals them all! Just too damn
nice.
good, man.
Yeah, he's having a good time so far. This 10th anniversary.
It's relatively even with Markoon. You know, it's nice to steal those away. It's a little bit of a bonus, but we have to remember Markoon did manage to get that blue. Szygenda trading with Wunder in the top lane. Wunder's just trying to survive this lane, really. Like, there are kill windows against an Aatrox, but they're small, few and far between.
It's really weird. Things have changed as well, because it's not like you're going Iceborne Gauntlet Rush anymore, which going towards a very cheap 700 gold Sheen against the things you're building now as Cassante. You're just overall level of threat against the champion like Aatrox, who can vamp off you quite easily. Does kind of just make this a little bit of a free ride for Szygenda in the early game.
And you can see he's 14 CS up. He's managed to base. We'll use his TP into the lane to make sure that Wunder can't do any freezing shenanigans. Jankos, though, on the grubs. Try and get these first 3-4 Heretics. Zoelys is moving, though. First grub will fall. Now, although there is a notification on our screens that the grubs are going down, until all 3 are taken, Rogue won't know that Jankos is doing these, so they won't see that he's taken the first or the second. There's no announcement like there is for a dragon, but they know because they've walked in and they spotted him now.
Yep.
Szygenda comes across, but that's 2 grubs over to Team Heretics and the early objective lead for them.
Exactly. Third will be picked up by Markoon, so 2-1 split. Heretics can walk away happy. I imagine now the next port of call will likely be a dragon take up at some point, as Perkz just finds himself a very nice trade. All in all, very even in the mid lane. I think once Perkz picks up that wave, actually he's only going to be about a CS behind, so not much to complain about there. You've made it to the point now where you have a little bit of kill threat, and Akali ult very early on can be a very, very powerful skirmishing tool around this dragon if it's something that Team Heretics are planning to fight on.
And neither team really wanting to fight too much at all in this early game, Jamada. No, just taking their time.
And I feel like that probably does benefit Rogue, right? You've got the Azir. Azir on this patch feels incredibly powerful with the extra amount of AP that mage items have kind of trended upwards with on this patch. And I also feel like this is a pretty decent Aatrox game too when you think about it. 3 melee champions that typically going to dive into you. Should always have a target to try and sort of just lifesteal back up on.
Lender's Darking Blades. And although we do see Kalista in the bot lane, Kalista used to be much more about how much can we push the early tempo, and she still does that really well, but she scales relatively well with the items in the game as well. You know, Terminus, you can go towards Jack Show if you want, you have the Ginsus, you have Blade, there is enough damage for her in the later portions of the game that she can still hold her own with a lot of AD carries. Not sure she'll be out-damaging an on-hit Varus, but she can get close enough that she'll work her way through the front line, and you have an Azir to buff up that damage as well, or to back up that damage, in fact.
Absolutely. So, I feel like as things go on, this is a situation or a game state that Rogue are quite happy with. I want to see Heretics try and push the envelope somewhere. Could be in this bot lane. They're just kind of shadowing right now, Jankos. Maybe they want to start up the dragon. Feels like Perkz has had priority over Larssen, or at the very least first move. It doesn't necessarily have to mean priority in the lane per se in this weird way.
It's the ability to push out the lane when you want to. It doesn't always mean that like you can gain the push out, but if you want, you can sacrifice some of your health, push up, make sure the wave is in at the enemy tower and then move away. Or just sack lane, sack waves, you know? You can always just leave if you so desire. It's like sounds like that Rick and Morty episode where Jerry is trying to get out of the kindergarten. It's like, you were always allowed to leave if you wanted, you know? There's nothing banning you from just walking out of the lane.
Not much to pick up on there.
Envelope or envelope?
Envelope.
Okay, I say envelope.
That's overly English, I feel like.
I also say schedule instead of schedule.
Oh, I have heard you say schedule. Oh,
yeah, I think it was like Englishmen growing up. Oh, there's going to be a fight, Chain of Corruption, Cleanse by comp, Magical Journey coming out as well, so at least able to dodge. But yeah, I think it was like an English person growing up in India. I try to be as, like, in my pronunciation, as English as possible. Because my accent isn't really of anywhere in England either. It's just a generic English accent.
I do the same thing when I'm around non-English people.
Yeah.
I tend to end up sounding a lot more English.
Much more British.
Much more British.
Bottle of water.
Bottle of water.
In it, bruv.
In it, bruv.
Any more? You want me to join? Yeah, you want me to just join it? It's like Simon says, English witticisms. But the Dragon will be started by Heretics. They got the push in the bottom lane, with Jankos joining the fight first. Burning the cleanse on comp with the Chain of Corruption means that they can just start up this objective, and Heretics playing the map, you know, okay. As we said, we perhaps would like them to try and be a little bit more explosive, but they don't need to. They haven't got first items anywhere. They're still getting the objectives. They got 2 grubs to 1. They got a Drake. They're fine in this moment.
Yeah, and that's the crucial thing that you mentioned, right? That first item for a lot of these champions is a huge spike. All of the top side, really, right? Titanic Hydra for Xin Zhao, whatever Wunder wants to build. In this case, it looks like a Sunfire Cape. And of course, what typically is the Storm Surge here for Perkz, as he will be chunked out here. So looking towards those first items, that's when I expect things to get a little bit more explosive. The engage option's definitely kind of limited in a way for Heretics, so a lot of their fight setup is likely going to have to be based around vision. But Rogue have all of the vision on this top side, and they're starting up the grubs.
I mean, a big thing for Rogue is getting at least one of these, because then you stop the Void Mites from spawning.
Yeah.
But actually, Zoelys had to soak 6 out of the mid wave, because the Heretics coming with Kaiser already have that 6. They get one of them. Markoon has to flash away, does still have the twisting advance, he dashes back forward, but Rogue really can't come over to help him. Markoon falls first, he goes Timber, Wunder trading in the top lane as Szygenda starts to heal up a little bit. Nature's Grasp that was invested by Markoon. 1 grub over to Rogue, stops those Void Mites from coming out for Team Heretics, but they're also, with Comp not moving from the bottom lane, he's going to be able to get a plate there on the Kalista. Heretics invested a lot into trying to stop that first grub from going over to Rogue.
Yeah, but it's kind of traded out because Flakked got a plate on the top side as well. I mean, sure, Rogue stopped the Mites from spawning, but it still feels like a very positive trade all in all for Team Heretics. They'll be happy to take this one up. And now we just kind of wait for the next dragon. And I feel like mostly on Rogue to kind of make a play where they see fit. Those items will start to crest in as we saw hit this 12, 15-minute mark across the board, and that will then also open up that window like we were talking about for Heretics.
Looks like Wunder's going to take a plate in the bottom lane as well. So in the end, it's a 2 plate for 1 exchange and 2 Void Grubs for 1 exchange in favor of Heretics. Still not at that first item for anyone but Szygenda, who does have the Sundered Sky. Not to be confused with a sky in the north of England, which is the Sunderland Sky. As he trades back onto Wunder. That extra little bit of healing coming from the Sundered Sky is quite nice as well.
Yep. Definitely a very, I don't know, it's kind of, in my mind, a bit of a, I don't want to say, what am I looking for here? Controversial is the wrong word. I'm not sure how strong I find this item. Anyway, we'll talk about that after, because Larssen is the cleanest Azir in Europe, so he's going to find his way out, but
Dashes out. Perkz looking for more. Perfect executioner possibility. Burns the flash for Larssen. The rest of Rogue were in the area, so didn't want to go any deeper. I think controversial. You could go with... is your take controversial? Do you think the item is debatable?
I just don't know if it's a rush item.
Okay.
That's all. I feel like, you know, third item probably fine. But also, I haven't really been looking into what Aatroxes have been building.
I get that. I get that.
So, Shojin. Oh, thank you, crowd member. I appreciate that. Yeah, of course, the abilities stack damage.
I like Sojin, but I also feel that's not a rush item. It increases all your spells damage, right? But
I feel like it's got all the stats he wants, though.
yeah. But does Thunder Sky not? Ability haste, health, attack damage. You get a free
But Shojin
critical
has
strike.
all of those stats as well.
Yeah, so I'm trying to work out why you like Shojin. Is it purely for the increased spell damage? The up to 12%
because
when
you
have it
also
fully
have to
stacked?
have to remember Aatrox heals off the damage he actually deals. It's
Sure.
a direct correlation. Whereas Sundered Sky basically only gives you the heal off the auto attack. So
Yeah, so when you auto a new champion every 6 seconds,
Yeah.
4 seconds if you have Ingenious Hunter fully stacked, you get 6% of your missing health heal.
okay, right. Do you know what will sell this to me? Does Szygenda have Ingenious Hunter?
Let's see if the bottom works. It does. He does not.
He can't,
So it's
because-
every 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The resolve tree is too powerful to ignore.
That's true. I mean, I wonder if there's some maths on, is it better to take Revitalize? Or is it better to take Ingenious Hunter for Thunder Sky procs? Because all of your other item cooldowns get reduced as well, right? The internal cooldowns. So
Yeah.
who knows? Probably someone.
Someone who's
Not
better
either
than,
of us.
Someone who's better than maps at both of us.
Hey, I tried to do some maths on stream today. It was the worst thing I've ever tried to do in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just couldn't do maths, man.
Don't do maths in front of a camera. Generally not a good idea.
Thankfully, the maths is done for us. You can see Heretics
Yeah.
took 5 plates and got 500 gold, and Rogue only took 2 plates and got 125. Now the fight for Rift Herald begins. I say fight. So far, we have had 1 fight, and it involved Markoon getting caught and dying.
Perhaps a staring contest.
Oh,
if I may.
yeah.
Oh, teleport's kind of deep. No, Szygenda's joining the team over the wall.
Okay. Heretics.
What you got for us?
It's not Oppenheimer. You don't just have to stand and watch. You can join in if you want. Nope. Instead, they'll just watch the explosions the Rift Herald falls. The Azir goes in. Perkz trying to dash away. He was trading with Szygenda, but was on the wrong side of that trade. Perfect execution will get him out as Heretics push in mid.
And they
Yeah.
almost get the tower. I mean, you look at it, you're watching like, yeah.
Well, I was trying to work out how long Oppenheimer was and whether I could make a joke about it. It's been an Oppenheimer length of time since we last saw a proper fight in this game, but
We had a lot of pauses today.
Oppenheimer was longer than 15 minutes. So.
That's true. We did have a lot of pauses today. I reckon you could watch 2 Oppenheimers. In a
Oppenheimer?
2
Well,
Oppenheimer.
You could do the Boppenheimer combo. The Barbie Oppenheimer, right? I did that. It is... Watching
Was it a
Oppenheimer
slog?
after Barbie is a weird experience, man.
I'm sure
That
it
is a
was.
strange thing to do. Just very jarring, you know? Anyway,
I can tell.
yeah, Dragon over to Heretics, still 700 gold between the two teams. We saw the Rift Herald charge in top. Rogue took their first tower of the game to equalize that mid lane tower that Heretics were taking at the same time. First items complete across the board, so it's probably going to be about 15 more minutes before we see another fight, guys. So settle in. You got any snacks? You can bring them over to the caster desk. We'll eat your
Yeah,
nachos. We'll have some of your popcorn.
You know, before it was kind of frowned upon, you know. You
No, but we can just reach
but now
down
we can
now.
actually
It's
just reach
great,
down.
you know?
Yeah, yeah, it would be,
Perfect.
yeah.
I am sad, though. I used to enjoy, every now and again, I'd sit in the crowd. And you can't really do that anymore, right?
I mean-
I'd have to jump this wall.
Yeah,
pretty
and
difficult.
like climbing back up is kind of a mess, right? And yeah, probably wouldn't be great.
Anyway.
Anywho. There's just not a lot to talk about in this game.
Yeah, the problem is, it's very new, very early in the season.
Yeah.
Neither of these teams have shown us that this is the style they want to go for this year. Rogue, we've already talked about, did this last year. Heretics have changed too much, really, for us to say much about the team other than, hey guys, it's G2.5, you know? And Flakked and Kaiser are back. Flakked obviously having played on G2 for a short while as well. The compositions are relatively standard for what we expect out of compositions on this patch. Maybe the Bard a little bit interesting, but we haven't seen him do much. I don't even think we've seen a single Tempered Fate. Perfect execution out of Perkz once again as they trade, but Rogue are here to answer and no fight will erupt. And once again, we're just waiting for a little while.
All right. I know there's a dragon in 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes, so it kind of
Are we cheering ward kills, crowd? Is that the point? Okay, let's just go for it. Just let it loose.
Cheer,
okay?
cheer
I've heard
what you
how
need to
loud
cheer
you guys
for.
can be. Cheer it. Come on. Way! Okay, come on.
All right.
You can do better than that. I believe in you.
Next kill, over or under, 21 minutes.
Over under 21 from now, or
From, as in like the game timer.
next kill?
Yeah, over under 21 minutes.
I'm gonna say over.
Over?
Yeah, they TP'd in here for Perkz, but he still has flash. What
Yep.
you're going under, I assume. You have to, because I've said over.
You said over,
have to
so
take
I have
the
to
other
say
side of the
under.
bet.
Surely they'll
kill someone.
They'll
in the
kill someone at
next 4
Dragon, right?
minutes.
At Dragon, surely they're not just gonna have another staring contest. I mean,
True.
for Rogue, it would be an okay enough time to start to look for fights.
Yeah.
You also don't really want to give over that third Dragon to Team Heretics.
Right,
it would
true.
really put you under a lot of
Good job,
pressure.
Crowd. Thank you, thank you. Oh, might be under. Never mind.
Nope.
Okay. I think it might be under 21 minutes, but only because I think Rogue are going to get impatient and try and force something after they've been pushed out of a fight.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Even though technically my bet is under, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm agreeing with you.
Well,
I think
yeah.
it's going to be under, but I bet over.
it's getting late.
It is getting late. Oh, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself before we have
Was
no
this-
more action happen?
Is this a like make
I mean, we
things
can
about
just
the
like,
casters
wait.
segment?
Look, I don't want to make it about us, but I'm going to be honest. The game isn't giving me much here, Jamada.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a Zaz. Oh no, it's a blood song. For a second, I thought we had a Zazax, which is an interesting name to say, so I was going to talk about it, but it's a blood song again, so less interesting.
Sounds a lot like the tree emote.
Yeah,
Brilliant tree emote.
we have a Maokai in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to have you here.
Thanks.
He's going to be
Yeah.
here for quite a few times
Oh.
this year. Temper Fate goes wide. Markoon still has the flash.
my God.
Goes in with a twisted advance. It's 19 minutes. He dies!
I win!
Jamada wins the bet, although he didn't want to be on the side of it that he was.
Yep,
Was
true.
forced there, foisted there. Okay, that's the thing. We started to try to talk about you,
Yep.
and then a kill.
Oh, dude.
Oh, is it going to happen again? No. Okay. Well,
Me-
it's, like both teams are playing to what they want to do.
Yeah, you know, we had Hysterics here earlier.
We did.
We've both come from the LPL.
Yes.
Maybe that's the secret. Start talking about the caster, and then the teams start playing like it's LPL
Like
and
it's
fight
LPL.
over nothing.
Yeah, that was a fight over nothing as well.
Yeah.
He was just in there, wasn't he?
You didn't even have to really. He could have just flashed
Yeah,
out.
he had a fight. He went back in.
Yeah.
I guess he wants to save Flash for the Dragon fight,
Yeah.
which is hopefully going to happen in 38 seconds.
And I guess Jankos technically didn't use his flash, so you know, no weird Xin Zhao sec
Yeah, it's true.
going on.
It's true. Okay, what Baron are we going to get?
The long haul one, I forget what it's
The
called.
All-Seeing Eye?
Yes.
I think it's Territorial. It's All-Seeing Eye!
Oh,
So,
I'm just a goat.
here's the problem with the All-Seeing Eye Baron.
Uh-huh.
Okay? In the Animal Kingdom, you
Yeah.
have animals with eyes on the front of their heads.
Okay.
And animals with eyes on the side of their heads.
Yeah.
Right? The All-Seeing Eye Baron has those elongated passages to the side, which implies the eyes are on the side. It can see the peripheries, right?
Right.
Guess what type of animal has eyes on the side of its head?
Why do educate us, dear medic?
Prey animals. Animals that are hunted because they can see all around
side.
themselves, so they can see if a predator comes in. What is hunting the Baron? What is trying to kill it, man?
I don't
I'm
know.
scared.
That's a horrible fight thing to think about. What
Also-
might not be a horrible fight is if Rogue decide to try and cut Heretics off, but they're gonna have the bar
Magical
portal,
journey.
and they will trade that tower for the dragon, and Rogue stop the stack. So
Yeah.
honestly, it feels good for them on the game state just to talk about the game
I mean,
very
they might
briefly.
actually look for this.
Oh, there's
Markoon,
teleport there.
Flash twisted advance, teleport behind. Wunder's trying to catch out Markoon. Szygenda going in. TP also burnt by Perkz as he joins the fight. Zoelys already
Oh my
down to
God.
half. Temper Fate hits 2. Zoelys is going to have to go in straight away pretty much. He dives forward. Magnustorm on an uphill fall. 3-0 so far for Heretics. Wunder flashing. Can't land the Intofu strikes. Perkz forced away by Szygenda. The magical journey brings them in. Nature's Grasp will only route up one. Everyone else can line up behind it. Perkz stepped into another route. Trying to get round to clear out this control ward. Jankos chipped away, and Rogue know they need to do some damage because Heretics could look towards a Baron. Relatively tanky early on in the game. They decide against it. Only one item on Flakked means he can't burn through it quite quickly enough. And there we have it. That's our 1 kill per 7 minutes allocated. So 28 minutes or so will be the next one.
If we get it, we'll see. Teleports though. Szygenda had half a flank angle, realized he had to rejoin his team because Perkz and Wunder probably would have torn through a lot of what remained of Rogue as Tempered Fate's good. Zoelys feels like he's pressured to have to go in, immediately gets popped. Doesn't use summoner spells though, as yeah, a lot of very important flash forces perhaps we'll have to track as we look towards maybe a Baron attempt after the back of this replay.
Szygenda Markoon burnt theirs. Zoelys didn't use his flash in the fight. Flakked doesn't have a flash, nor does Jankos or Wunder. Heretics now setting up vision around the Baron. I will say this pit is interesting because there's so many more ward positions that can't be spotted by a single control ward.
That's
so you
true.
have to be really aware of where you're clearing out. 2 items now on comp as well, means he's pretty powerful. Larssen has a Rabadon's alongside his Nash's Tooth. We've seen what damage an Azir can do in this situation. Kanik Rukern, though, for Wunder, the name that everyone wonders why it was called that. But it gives you
it's such an awkward name to pronounce. Like, cool name, bit awkward to pronounce.
Rukern. I haven't looked at the history behind it, but yeah, it gives you a magic damage shield if you haven't been dealt magic damage recently. Scales with your max health, I believe. Makes you pretty darn tanky.
Yep, Galio W passive.
Yes.
Pretty much. I hope that champ gets changed to have more magic resist scaling. Another wish of mine on the long list.
I'd never want Galio to be meta, man.
Well, it's not about making him meta. It's about making him anti-mage again. You know?
That's true. I can see trying to go back to the reason, the fantasy.
Yeah, the fantasy.
Reason that people play it. I get that. I get that.
You know, Galio would be pretty awesome in this game on any position, because then maybe fights would happen, or well, technically because of his ult, maybe not.
His ult would only be used to disengage, man. Like, come
true.
on. You watched them play for 23 minutes.
Yeah, you're right. They might fight over this red buff. Nope.
Nope.
No, never mind. I just saw where Flakked and Kaiser were.
So, Zeke's from Zoelys. I like as an item on the Rell.
So do
because
I.
it gives you magic damage and an AoE around you when you jump, or when you use your ultimate, which Rell is already pulling people in with her ultimate, so wants that magic damage around her as well.
Just makes it a lot more obnoxious, right? It's kind of a mini ultimate in a way, minus the gravity pull, and you don't really need to pull back, so feels good there. And I feel like for Rogue, with these item spikes they've got, at any point they could technically start a Baron if they actually find a window to do it, but Heretics, as you can see, vision control kind of lies in their hands. The vision in general for Rogue is quite shallow. Just kind of borderline. Thank you very much, observers, just for highlighting that. But Heretics, in their own right, I feel like pretty slow Baron. It's only really the Varus that's going to get or dish out a whole bunch of DPS over time. So they do need a couple of these members of Rogue to be dead, but looking to threaten it. But there's 45 seconds left on the Infernal Dragons, so perhaps waiting for both of those objectives to be up before starting a play as Szygenda.
Playing with Perkz, World Ender comes out. Szygenda obviously realizing with Storm Surge Leandries, Perkz can work his way through him. Perfect execution to get him away. I will say, I'm a little surprised Zoelys has yet to finish his support item. There's a bunch of minions there, just order them, dude. He's got like 970 gold off it. He's just not getting the really OP upgrade from the support item, right? He can get that Bounty of Worlds. Now he's caught out. Wunder and Jankos chasing him down. The Fate's Call will pull him out. Good tempered bait though locks them up. Nature's Grasp has been used. Zoelys gets the Magnet Storm down, but just doesn't have the damage. And now Rogue starting to fall by the wayside. Comp chased away. The slope from the Bard. Cosmic binding into the wall, and Comp will fall. Markoon, Szygenda, and Larssen, the only ones left alive. And Team Heretics turn their eyes towards the Baron.
Said just recently, Team Heretics will need a couple of members dead for this Baron attempt to happen, and they found their picks. Now they're on top of the Baron. Larssen has ultimate. That's the only one left available for Rogue, but they're not even trying. They're just going to go and trade this Dragon off, get their second Infernal of the game, and look to Turtle, as they will likely fall around 7,000 gold behind as this Baron falls.
There you are. Basically exactly 7,000 if you take 500 off it. But it was close, Jamada.
Thanks.
It's a very good prediction from you. We'll have another look at this, because Zoelys is like stepping forward, trying to defend Szygenda a little bit, but it really feels just
it's kind of
that
over
Zoelys isn't on the same page as his team. Like, why are you stepping there? Are you trying to play for the Razor Beaks?
I mean, just feels maybe a little bit overconfident because he's got that ultimate from Kalista, but the Tempered Fate just throws a spanner in the works immediately, and then kind of sets up for Comp to die. Doesn't have any more escapes. A great Cosmic Binding comes out from Kaiser, and they're able to basically just very easily rotate through towards that Baron, and Rogue now stand in a huge deficit, which, unless we do end up seeing a bit of a wombo combo come out, because we haven't really seen Rogue layer their ultimates on top of, you know, the important members like Perkz or Flakked very easily. It's going to be a bit of a struggle bus until then, and with Baron now, means the siege is going to come through, and whilst it's not poke Varus, this Varus is going to be very, very difficult to get on top of, and will still deal a bunch of damage.
Zoelys though going into the Magnet Storm as they look for the engaged TP behind as well from Szygenda. Last chance to Loon, you have to feel here from Rogue. They've already lost their support, will they lose more? Flakked pulled back, shut down by Markoon. Szygenda now in the midst of 3 members of Heretics. Perkz yet to join this fight. Markoon's going to fall as well though. Wunder, Jankos and Kaiser working their way through the Rogue lineup. Comp trying to do everything he can under the tower, but he just can't do enough. Rogue get 1 kill on the board, but what have they lost for it?
Potentially a lot. It could, I mean, with Comp dead and Larssen the only one alive, I'm not going to say the game just yet. Maybe 2 inhibs is just the cost. Team Heretics won't bite off more than they can chew, but Larssen trying to get up in Perkz' face, stop this push from happening in.
Perkz going back in, stunned with the Shadowing Strike, but Larssen has to work his way away from this. Zoelys crashes down and Larssen's able to walk away. Double inhib, as you say. Jamada is the cost, 5,000 extra gold from the Baron power play. And a magical journey leads Kaiser, Perkz, and Flakked out of the fight.
Yeah, and with 3 minutes left on Dragon, you imagine once we come out of this replay, the call is just going to be stacked on top lane. Let the supers do the work. Zoelys looks for the engage, but a well-timed flash from Flakked keeps him in safety. No real danger of dying until Szygenda shows up on this flank. Was able to lock him down in place. Shutdown must go over to Markoon, but at the end of the day, you're just trying to kill targets this deep into the game. But you don't kill off the Cassante, and you certainly didn't kill off Xin Zhao, who is dealing a whole bunch of damage underneath all of this, and Perkz wasn't even there.
It's just so difficult for Comp and Larssen to get close enough to do damage, right? Like, Comp got 4 or 5 auto attacks off in the entirety of the fight. He doesn't have the front line, or the battle's too far away from him. Comp still no flash. Temper Fake will lock him up. The Pathmaker, it slams him into the wall, and back down to the fountain he goes. The Kalista has not done wonders at all for Rogue. The final inhibitor in the eyes of Heretics, and maybe even more than that, the game a possibility. Szygenda caught out, Perkz stunned for a second. Darking Blade lands the knock-up. There's the inhibitor falling. Larssen 3 items on the Azir. Is that enough? Will we finally see Rogue brought to life, or will Heretics continue this death march towards the Nexus? Szygenda down to half HP. They just can't get close enough. It's all on Zoelys. But Zoelys with no flash, and Heretics with every dash to disengage. Even the Crescent Guard, a possibility for Jankos just to try and keep Rogue at bay. Triple inhib down. It's too difficult for Rogue, as you say.
Just does feel too difficult, and the thing is, the only way that a fight seems feasible to kick off at this point, because we've not seen Markoon really be able to get nice long-distance ults off, is Larssen kind of throwing his body on the line, but you need this 3-item Azir to dish out the DPS, and he can't do that if he's trying to set up shuffle plays. So with Comp basically being the immediate target of a lot of Team Heretics' aggression, feels like they're in a bit of a catch-22, because Comp now kind of behind the curve, can't really put out as much damage as you would like. If he steps into aura range, it feels like he's stepping into death range. And Larssen feels like hasn't really been able to have his pressure felt just because of how Team Heretics have been able to keep him at bay.
I mean, everyone on Rogue is behind the curve. Larssen's the only Rogue player in the top 5. Kaiser has almost 2,500 gold more than Zoelys, and almost as much gold as Markoon. Everyone on Rogue is struggling for gold, struggling for items, apart from Larssen. Larssen just doesn't have the opportunity to put the damage down. It's another game from Rogue that is just slow, but without impetus in it, without that excitement, without those moments of let's force something, let's find something. And again, this is a personal preference, but I'd much rather see a team go out fighting than be suffocated out of the game. And credit to Heretics, they played it well, they've worked the map well, they found their advantages wherever they can. But often we've seen Rogue having to engage reactively rather than ever proactively looking for those picks.
Yeah, I think frankly, Rogue have kind of dished their own medicine this game. Perkz
onto Szygenda, forces the World Ender out. The Tempered Fate lands on one Nexus Tower. Zoelys trying to get on the backline, but there is no one autoing the Heretics backline. Larssen and Szygenda alongside Markoon trying to hold the Nexus. Wunder will fall. The first Nexus Tower follows suit though. And Jankos, Perkz, Kaiser and Flakked can just slowly work their way through the Aatrox. Larssen left standing, all on his lonesome. The Emperor's divide will divide the wheat from the chaff. And this time Rogue have been found wanting Heretics to win the win.
Yep, redemption win, if you ask me. After Heretics' performance yesterday, it's a bit of a stomping from Mad Lions Koi. But this game looked significantly cleaner.
Yeah.
A draft all on the same page, and gameplay which in reality just matched Rogue's energy, right? Hey, you know what? If they're going to let us hit first item, then practically take whatever we want, we'll do that. And
They did
that's
exactly that.
exactly how the game played out. And Rogue had no real answer. Despite having all those engage tools, Heretics were like kept them at bay. And even when an engage maybe looked good, there was no follow-up from Comp or Larssen available.
Just couldn't quite get in range. A player of the game votes at LEC on Twitter. Jankos, Flakked, and Kaiser. They all had relatively good games. Kaiser's Tempered Fate, his Bard was pretty strong. I think Flakked put out a lot of damage on the Varus as well. Got to give him credit there. And Jankos' control of the jungle, some of those early objectives really led to Heretics being able to just take a stranglehold on that game. For Rogue, a disappointing start to the split. Have a quick look at who they face up against tomorrow. It is G2, so that's going to be a toughie for them as well. Could be the start of a 0-3. But of course, they can go back tonight, they can recuperate, they can regroup, and perhaps they can find a way to find the win against a G2 that looks in pretty good form coming into 2024.
Yep, G2. Said it earlier as well. Business as usual.
Yep.
It feels like for them at the minute. So we'll see how Rogue, you know, kind of stand up against them, but it's going to be kind of difficult, I feel.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. We'll see what they can do. Obviously, a relatively short turnaround as well, with it being a longer day for us here in the LEC. We've very much enjoyed your company through it, and with PGL coming up next, I hope you stay around for that. But it's kind of the end of the road for us today, at least, Jamada.
It is.
Any final words of wisdom for people before we hand it over to an interview?
Me?
You're very wise, man. You are.
Nah, I'm not. I mean, I guess maybe after all we had Mad in the correct tier. I don't know what you want from me.
Oh yeah, I mean that was good.
Yeah.
That was great.
Right,
I didn't hear any of it because the producers were talking in my ear. We're going to hand over to Laure, who's standing by on stage with Kaiser. They're over there.
Yay! Thank you so much, Kaiser, for joining me. Congrats on winning this one after what happened yesterday. Do you feel relieved now when you compare the two games and the way you guys played?
I mean, for sure. Like, there were like some doubts, you know, maybe we were actually washed after the Mad Lions game, because I think like we had like decent confidence coming into like the Mad Lions game, but I think they played really well, right? They didn't give us any chances, and I think like after the early game we just had like no chance. So props to them, but I'm just happy that we won today and like showed a good performance.
Getting caught off guard by the new generation, but as you say that you make it up today. Tell me about the pace of the game. I saw some comments online about Rogue being back and Rogue games being back and the way they used to play the game, but what happened here and why couldn't just speed up the pace of the game and close it out faster?
I mean, I think like we played it like pretty safe. Like we just didn't try to give them any chances. Like they had Azir scaling, right? So if we give them like too many shutdowns, like we know we can lose the game, right? And they did a good job, I think. Like they like kind of sneaked 2 dragons from us, so they like prolonged the game. Like we couldn't really get soul. And I think like if we didn't have like a good fight in their base, like maybe the game could have like actually like even been thrown by us. But I think we played it fine. I think maybe we could have even played a bit more aggressive. Like when Kalista was dead, we could have maybe tried to push for the Nexus. But I think like I'm just yeah, fine with this.
It takes time to get used to a new team, as I often say usually at the beginning of the season, and especially when you have so much experience all across the board. I feel like it's the first time you have teammates like this who've been playing for such a long time, who have so much experience. What does that change for you actually as a player, and how you can think of stuff, anticipate, exchange with the rest of the players? Tell me about how it's been so far.
I mean, it's been really nice, to be honest. Like, I think playing with Jankos makes the game as a support like much easier. Like, he talks a lot, and I think like we have the problem of like maybe sometimes we talk too much. Like, I think sometimes people just have to shut up, kind of. And I think we are trying to learn that as well. Like having like one voice and like maybe being on the same page a bit more. But I think for sure like playing with like all these like experienced players makes it so much easier, because like we don't have to like explain like the basics like too much anymore, right? We can just like even though like sometimes we may like skip steps and stuff like this, like maybe we don't play by the book too much. I think it's still like much easier to play.
But as you said, you have to, how can I say, you have to contain different voices, and you all have strong opinions about the game, and you all come with your approach, and making something coherent out of this can be a difficulty, I feel. How do you combine every opinion, as you said, because sometimes people can get loud and think their opinion can be the best. So how do you cook everything so that it stays coherent?
I mean, it helps that we're like pretty like good friends already, right? I think like they know each other from like way back, right? I know Perkz from Vitality, so I think like it helps that we can like talk to each other in like a normal way and like just talk stuff out, right? Like no one is like hurt if like someone says like you're inting or something, right? And I think like we just like try to talk the strategy out as well. Like if you have different opinions, we just try to bring ourselves together and like be on on the same page, I guess, right? And of course, it's not always like that easy, right? I think. Especially if you get like older and like more set in your ways, right? It's harder to change, I guess, right? Yeah. But I think we're trying, and I think like this new season as well, like it kind of requires us to change a bit as well. So it's for sure like a challenge, but a challenge we are like willing to take.
We don't say old, we say experienced here in the LEC. But honestly, with all this potential and experience, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Team Heretics can become. But it's all for us here on this side of the stage. Kaiser, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
For the interview, and good luck on the third game you will have tomorrow. And it's time for us to toss it back to Sjokz for post-game lobby. Take it away, dear.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't